All right, we're going to talk about diagrams and markings. The objective is I can identify all important info on any diagram. We do have to go through a little bit of vocab here. The first term and we're going to talk about is congruent. I like to say congruent is geometry's version of equal. Okay, so we can say two numbers are equal, but when we're talking about two shapes, if they were equal, they would be the exact same shape laying on top of each other. So shapes actually hold their own space. So if I look at two triangles that I say, oh, this triangle over here is the exact same shape and size as this triangle over here, I would say congruent. There's the symbol we use, and below it I'm going to draw a little arrow, and I'm going to say same shape and size. The next term, hopefully you've heard before, is parallel. Two lines that go on forever, never intersect. Draw a little two lines like this. We'll call it line L and line M. The symbol we use for this is the two upright slashes here that look like two parallel lines, so it's easy to remember instead of actually writing out the word parallel. And on the diagram, the way we identify if lines are parallel, are with arrows. And when the arrows match up, you'll notice one arrow, one arrow. I know those two lines go on forever and will never intersect. Now, if they don't match up, even though they might look like the lines are parallel, if these arrows don't match up, okay, I can't assume that they're parallel. But if I have 2 and 2, now again, parallel. The next word, perpendicular. Perpendicular is when two lines cross at 90 degrees. So I have line X and line Y here. I'm going to indicate that it's parallel if I were writing it out, or excuse me, perpendicular by the upside down T. That's the symbol for perpendicular. And on the diagram, which hopefully you've seen before, just this little box here indicates that line actually crosses at 90 degrees. Okay, first diagram. Looks like this. Again, if the video is going too fast, feel free to pause. In each of these diagrams we're going to go through, there will be 3 different things going on, and all of these things are indicated by red markings. So the first thing we're going to deal with is the arrows. Okay. Again, the arrows we said represents that these lines are parallel. So if I were to look at line F here and line E, and I notice the double arrows, the first thing I would write is line F is parallel with line E. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. Second thing, I want to talk about this box down here, which we know means perpendicular. I'm going to say line D, that's this line right here, is perpendicular with this segment right here from Y to Z. And I can see that by the little box right here. And then the last thing, I've got these 2 tick marks here, which mean those 2 segments are the same length. I'm going to say segment XW is congruent with segment YZ. Here's segment XW. Or again, I could reverse the order and say WX, same thing, is congruent with segment YZ. Second diagram. I'm going to talk about these arrows again. I'm going to say line EC is parallel with line GF. So I need to add little arrows on the end of this so my diagram is correct. Because segments should say that it goes on forever. Now you'll notice this time I was not able to use the lowercase letter, like I didn't see a little L and M down here, unfortunately. So I actually have to use 2 points on that line. So this would be line GF or FG, depending on which direction I'm going. And this one is line EC or CE. Again, direction doesn't matter, so I can reverse the order of these and it doesn't make a difference. I'm still talking about the same line. Okay, next one. I want to talk about these arcs here, which indicate these angles are congruent or the same measure. Okay, the first one, I'm going to say angle DCE, and you have to remember when we're naming angles, we have to, most of the time, have to use 3 points. So in this specific one, I'm just retracing the angle. I start at D, I go to C, I follow down E. Is congruent with this angle right here, and I named it DEC. And I know it's confusing because you're using the same 3 letters of the alphabet, but again, just retrace. I could call it DEC, or if I wanted to change the direction, which is also correct, I could have called it CED, and that would have also been correct. Okay, over here, I notice 3 arcs, those match up. I'll go a little faster on this. The first angle is angle FGH. So the first angle is angle FGH, right there. And the second angle is GHF. Perfect. Next diagram. I want to talk about these 2 tick marks first, and again, it doesn't matter which red markings I go with. I could have talked about the box first or talked about the arcs and the angles first. I chose the tick marks. So the first one is segment DB is congruent with segment DC. Now, since they're congruent, I know they are on a line, but I only want to talk about the distance between these 2 points is congruent with segment BC right here. I'm going to talk about the box here. We know that box means perpendicular. I'm going to talk about line DB this time. So the line that extends forever in both directions is perpendicular with ray BC. Right there. Oops. Fix that real quick. Oh, I've accidentally erased this. Let me change this. B, C, like that. Okay, next one, the angles. First angle, BDC, goes from B to D to C. Second angle is congruent with angle BCD, B to C to D. Okay, next diagram. The 2 blue lines I traced over, 2 tick marks right here, 2 tick marks right here. I'm going to say that segment DE is congruent with segment CD. Next, markings. I'm going to go with the single tick marks. Single tick mark, single tick mark. Segment KF is congruent with segment LB. And then I'm going to deal with the 3 arcs here. Angle DAC. Angle DAC is congruent with angle DAE. DAE. Last diagram. Segment BC is congruent with segment GF because of the 2 tick marks. Dealing with the single tick mark, segment CD is congruent with segment DF. And the last one, segment DE is perpendicular to, now I have a couple choices here. I could say this segment, CD, I could say this segment, DF, or I could say the whole thing, and I'm going to say the whole thing this time, segment CF.